My name is Randall True. I'm a retired psychiatrist. I'm 73 and a half years old. And what else do I need to add to that? I went to medical school. I did my residency from 71 to 74. In 75 about, I became a board certified psychiatrist.
What part of your job led you to tell your story today?
One of the things in all of my training, really, in the 70s, late 60s and early 70s, as you know, abortion became legal pretty widespread. And I was in the middle of all that in my training. So in my training in my residency, I was asked, at that time in California, the laws were such that if a doctor wrote a letter for you as a young woman that you could benefit mentally, that you would be adversely affected by not having an abortion, we would write letters for young women that they could then legally have an abortion in California. And as a resident, I was asked to do those. Unfortunately, I did it for, 20, 30, 40 young women, maybe during the time that's the way the law was in California. I was trained to think of a fetus as just a blob of tissue. And I was comfortable with that at that point. So that's how my training affected me relative to thinking of a baby growing in a womb as just a little piece of unwanted tissue, and that if it was a problem, you took it away. Well, what changed was, as I said, as I got older, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how dumb could I be, and I'm trained in all of this stuff. But in my 60s, I watched my friends relating to their grandchildren and hearing them talk about their relationship with their grandchildren. And I naively was thinking, well, someday that'll happen to me too. Well, it didn't. I have one daughter, love her dearly, she's special, but it just hasn't worked out that she's had kids and she's old enough now. I began to realize in my 60s that she's not going to have those grandchildren that I kind of thought I wanted. But I didn't think about it a lot until time went on farther, and it became clear that I was not going to have, I have a number of friends my age, and they're having fun with their grandchildren. I'm not having that relationship. And it gradually, painfully dawned on me, I'm never going to have that relationship. And I asked myself, well, why? And suddenly I'm looking through the fog and realizing I killed 3 of my children. I'm not going to have any grandchildren. And so it was a painful realization, just gradually dawning on me, that my choices as a young man, which I thought were, going to help me, actually hurt me. And so it's a painful thing to live with. And I learned a saying long time ago, I've mentioned it to you before, that God always forgives, man sometimes forgives, Mother Nature never forgives. So I made a choice in the way I dealt with Mother Nature, and it's never going to change. And I have to just find ways to, live in some degree of peace that on earth here, that's never going to change.
What would you like to say to the people who are seeing this video?
I guess I would want to say, think carefully about your decisions. I hope you would remember these little images of me talking about how my perspective changed as I got older. When I was in my 20s, and it was just a blob of tissue, I put pressure on several women to get abortions, not thinking about what it meant. It was a very selfish thing to do. But I could do that because I thought it was just a blob of tissue. Now I look at it from a whole different perspective, and I realize that little baby wasn't a blob of tissue. It was a little child that was going to grow up to be one of my 3 kids, and one of my 3 kids, or maybe all 3, would have had a couple kids that would be my grandchildren now. So I have maybe 6 grandchildren that don't exist because of the somewhat foolish, selfish choices I made as a young man. And I rationalize those choices by saying the baby's just a blob of tissue. It's not just a blob of tissue.